Etita nona likaleliwa mangwana ni malalepo vukenja ni class vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa. Good morning. The news and current affairs show that brings you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. I am smiling because of the way Aina looked at me when I said Etita nona likaleliwa.
No, because you improved.
I improved.
Now it sounds more like a Rambo man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
No problem. Find me across the red line.
All right, in today's show, thousands flee as ceasefire fails to hold. Now, the world could face a record temperature in 2023 as El Nino returns USA. African-American nationalists accused of acting for Russia. We also speak to Master Mike Sichula and bring you the latest sports with Ari Hohat. We'll be right back with the top stories shortly.
To another exciting episode of Oneuptwo. Jou pleased to hear en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis julle monster kan byt.
In our top stories this morning, thousands flee as ceasefire fails to hold. Yesterday marked the sixth day of fighting in Sudan as ceasefire between the army and the powerful paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces failed. This is the second ceasefire they have broken. Thousands of residents have fled the capital Khartoum. So have some 320 soldiers who were detained in neighboring Chad. I already have 320 soldiers who are already in our territory. They are military. No doubt they are civilians, so we are in the process of welcoming them and taking all necessary measures to ensure that they are sustainably accommodated, said Chad's Defense Minister Bichari Issa Jadala.
Now, the world could breach a new average temperature record in 2023 or 2024, fueled by climate change and the anticipated return of the El Nino weather phenomenon, climate scientists say. Climate models suggest that after 3 years of the La Nina weather pattern in the Pacific Ocean, which generally lowers global temperatures slightly, the world will experience a return to El Nino, the warmer counterpart, later this year. During El Nino, winds blowing west along the equator slow down and warm water is pushed east, creating warmer surface ocean temperatures. El Nino is normally associated with record-breaking temperatures at the global level. Whether this will happen in 2023 or 2024 is yet to be known, but it is, I think, more likely than not, said Carlo Bontempo, director of the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service. The last 8 years were the world's 8th hottest on record, reflecting the longer-term warming trend driven by greenhouse gas emissions. Friederike Otto, senior lecturer at Imperial College London's Grantham Institute, said El Nino-fueled temperatures could worsen the climate change impacts countries are already experiencing.
Now, in our next story, UAE President royals land in South Africa. The President of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and his family landed in Eastern Cape on Wednesday on a 20 million rand runway he built with his own money. Now, the wealthy ruler is in the country along with an entourage of 500, including other members of the UAE royal family, staff and top artists who are expected to perform for the family to mark the end of Ramadan. Now, the royal family and their guests are said to have brought their own furniture, cars and gym equipment for their 2-week stay in Eastern Cape. Reports have emerged that the United Arab Emirates royal family quietly landed at a South African Defence Force military base in Eastern Cape. This comes 10 years after a controversial Gupta family landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base in April 2013. That commercial aircraft was carrying some 200 travelers, which had flown in from India to attend a lavish Gupta wedding at Sun City, and was allowed to land at the base, which is ordinarily reserved for military and diplomatic flights.
Still trying to wrap my head around them carrying their own furniture. Whatever happened to bears? Moving on, South Africa's tourism board is due to be dissolved amid fallout over a proposed sponsorship for the English Premier League club Tottenham Hotspurs, local media reports. The deal was scrapped last month following an uproar, especially from cash-strapped national sports federations and labor unions who believe the money would be better spent elsewhere. The 3-year shirt-sleeve sponsorship deal had been valued at about $51 million. In all the circumstances, I believe that good cause exists to dissolve the board, and I shall do so officially through the Government Gazette on Friday, the 21st of April 2023, Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille is quoted as saying. The member team is expected to take over the functions of the board pending the appointment of a new board.
Now, in our next story, ban on early morning prayers is lifted in Mocimboa. Now, the Mozambican authorities in the northern province of Cabo Delgado, in coordination with the Mozambican and Rwandan armed forces, have lifted the ban on early morning prayers in the mosque of the town of Mocimboa da Praia, according to reports in Tuesday's issue of the Independence news sheet. Now, the ban had been in force since large numbers of displaced people began returning to Mocimboa da Praia last year. The town had been in the hands of Islamist terrorists for about a year before they were driven out by the Mozambican and Rwandan forces in 2021. The ban was lifted following requests from followers of the Islamic religion who insisted on a return to early morning prayers during the sacred month of Ramadan. This issue was left so keenly that before the start of Ramadan, some of the retainees left the town again for other parts of the province where they could comply fully with their religious obligations.
Now, a Tunisian judge yesterday ordered opposition leader Richard Ghannouchi be detained before his trial on charges of plotting against state security, the latest escalation of a crackdown against opponents of the president, his lawyer told Reuters. The 81-year-old head of the Islamist Ennahda party was the speaker of the elected parliament, which was shut down in 2021 by President Kais Saied when he seized all powers. Ghannouchi was arrested on Monday and was ordered detained following an investigation by the judge that lasted 8 hours, lawyer Monia Boali added. No date has been set for any trial or the next hearing. Ennahda condemned the unjust decision and said it was intended to cover up failure in a stifling economic and financial crisis that is leading the country towards bankruptcy. Ghannouchi's official Facebook page published a comment by him after the judge's decision, which said, "I am optimistic about the future. Tunisia is free." His lawyer said the decision to hold Ghannouchi in custody was pre-planned because of his expressions of opinion. That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. After the break, we swing over to the real Africa, Zambia, as we get the news from Mike Sichula.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Now, while we wait for Mike Sichula to connect, I understand he's a Manchester United fan, so he might be getting himself together. We're going to go check out the weather and we'll be back with more news.
In our economic news this morning, more than half of Brits do not want to pay for Charles' coronation. More than half of British people do not want the upcoming coronation of King Charles to be funded by taxpayers. A new poll conducted and published on Tuesday found the YouGov poll found 51% of respondents believe the government should not pay for the 6th of May ceremony to crown Charles and Camilla. Nearly a third, 32%, said it should, while around 18% did not know. It comes with the UK in the grip of a cost of living crisis and wide-ranging strikes by employees across the public and private sectors as decades-high inflation eats away at earning. The situation is seen as factoring into muted enthusiasm for the long weekend of celebration so far.
All right, so Anna and I are definitely going to get into that story and smell the coffee after Africa Good Morning. But first, we'll swing over to South Africa's latest economic news. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has granted Total Energy's environmental authorization to conduct exploratory drilling off the southwest coast. Interested and affected parties have 20 days from 20 April to appeal the decision with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. The DMRE had notified Total Energies of its decision on 17 April, according to SLR Consulting, the environmental assessment practitioner for the energy company. Total Energies would be able to drill up to 5 exploration wells within the area known as Block 567. The block overlaps with the Orange Basin, where there have been 2 major oil finds off the coast of Namibia. Total holds rights to the exploration block along with Shell and Petro SA. South Africa, can Namibia do anything alone? I'm just playing. Hey, you know what? All is for everybody belongs to all human beings. We're going to economic indicators and we'll be back with more news. All right, it would seem Mike Situla is ready to talk to us about the news in Zambia. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
We are fantastic. Now, a court in Lusaka has declared fit 1 out of 2 persons accused of abducting 13 young ladies. Could you please get into the story?
Yes, this is a story that we've been running for the past few weeks. And the background of this story is that sometime last year, the police in Lusaka arrested 2 persons who were holding 13 young ladies in custody in their home. They held them for about 1 month. So after they were arrested, they were taken to court. Then one of them, after court, then one of them in prison tried to escape, and whilst he did that, he fell and he injured his back. So what has been happening is that the lawyers representing the duo did tell the court and presented before the court a medical report suggesting that one of them was not fit to stand trial. However, the court has declared James Mwalia fit to stand trial for the offenses, and that this is after the court received a medical report from Chainama Medical Health Hospital after an application by the defense to have the accused undergo medical status. So one of those who had attempted to escape yesterday pleaded guilty to the offense of trying to run away from lawful custody, and he will be sentenced for that offense this coming week. Then the other case of them abducting 13 young ladies who have to continue in the next coming week.
All right, in your next story, Master Situla, 3 directors of a company involved in a money circulation scheme have been arrested by the authorities. Tell us about this.
This is one of the stories that is trending in Zambia, because this company was running a money circulating scheme where they were asking people to pumping money in what was being called contract farming, where you're pumping money and the people farm for you for a period of months and you get your monies. So according to the Drug Enforcement Commission, they have arrested 3 directors of Kamono Farm Initiative Limited and Kamono Cooperative Society Limited for fraud and money laundering involving 134 million kwacha, which is almost 75,000 United States dollars. So those who have been arrested are expected to explain and also to tell the court and the police how the scheme was working, because apparently there are some people who had invested in this scheme, and after time they were supposed to collect their monies matured, they have not been given their monies. So this has raised a lot of concern amongst members of the general public, as those also who are invested in the scheme. So this is not the only scheme that is happening in Zambia. There are a lot of schemes which a lot of people are calling quick money fixers, where you want to invest as little as $200, $200, and you're expecting to live about $5,000 in the space of 10 months. So a number of concerns have been raised against such schemes that are happening in the country.
All right, Mike, if you could please do your next 2 stories back to back. Please tell us about the woman whose marriage to a Congolese man was rejected by the local authorities, and of course the latest from the Copper Queens.
Yes, the background of this story is that a Malawian woman based in Zambia was married to a Zambian man for close to 20 years. Then in the last part of that 20 years, 5 years, it's like they were on separation with that Zambian man. So she got engaged with a Congolese man who is seated next to her. The lady in question is the one who has got red roses on that couch, and the man next to her is the Congolese who wanted to get married to her. So when word went round, and the man who was married to her for 20 years heard about the news, he rushed to the Lusaka City Council to go and make sure that the marriage does not go on. So when he reached at the council, he did explain his position to say, this is my wife for 20 years, but the wife claimed that the man had deserted her and he was not providing, hence she decided to get married to a Congolese national. And the Congolese national also told the court that he had been paying rent for this woman for the past 5 years. So now you can imagine this Zambian man says he married her for the last 20 years, and the Congolese also claimed that he was paying rent for her for 5 years. So the court, upon hearing such stories, they decided to cancel this wedding and also told the woman to reconcile with a Zambian man. But afterwards, the woman refused to reconcile with the Zambian man. So as it is, we do not know what is going to happen next.
All right. Okay, and briefly, the Copper Queens, please.
Yes, the Football Association of Zambia has told the nation that they will reinforce the Copper Queens technical bench before the 2023 World Cup. This is according to FAS President Andrew Kamanga, who says that current coaches on the Copper Queens will support through the hiring of experienced personnel. Mr. Kamanga was speaking on the sidelines of the Zambia Premier League consultative meeting held of the Women's National League. So in the last 7 friendly matches, the Copper Queens have not performed very well, and it has raised concern amongst soccer fans who are calling on the association to ensure that the technical bench is reinforced.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike, for bringing us the news stories from Zambia.
Thank you very much. Do have a lovely weekend. Africa, good morning.
Africa, good morning. Indeed. Now, the totality of goals scored between Sevilla and Manchester United were 7. Manchester United scored 4 of those goals, and Manchester United still lost. Here's Ari Hochart with the sports news.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with soccer news first is from the UEFA Champions League, big games that was played and the semi-finals have been determined, and the big news is that the one semi-final will be between Manchester City and they will play holders Real Madrid. So that's a big game coming up. So Manchester City, they need to play Real Madrid because they beat Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. That game is done. That game ended in a 1-1 draw that was played in Germany, but it was enough for them to have a 4-1 aggregate to go through to the semi-finals. It will be kind of a revenge for Manchester City playing against Real Madrid in the semi-final in 2022. It was Real Madrid that dramatically won the semi-final in the last minutes of that game, scoring 2 late goals in the last few minutes of that game to go through to the final and eventually win the tournament. In the other quarterfinals, it was Inter Milan that went to Benfica. They had a 3-3 draw. That was enough for a 5-3 aggregate. And now it will be Inter Milan that also play the arch rivals AC Milan. So all Milan semi-final that will be in the UEFA Champions League. And continuing international sports news with tennis news, the Barcelona men's tennis tournament on the ATP continues, and it is number 2 seed Stefanos Tsitsipas. He played a game in the round of 32 and he won against Pedro Lachem. He's from Argentina. The score there was 6-4 and 6-2. Also good results for Yannick Sinner. He's from Italy, one of the favorites. He's a good player on clay, and he in the round of 16 already, he played against Yuki Nishioka of Japan. He had to play 3 sets. He won by 6-1, 4-6 and 6-3, but he's through to the quarterfinals at least. Earlier in the previous round, he beat Diego Schwartzman of Argentina, also a clay court specialist. He beat him by 6-2 and 6-4. Also Cameron Norrie of Great Britain having a good tournament. He's also a good player on clay. He beat Pavel Kotov of Russia quite convincingly by 6-1 and 6-2. Carlos Alcaraz, the number 1 seed in the tournament, he's also still in the tournament playing a round of 32 game. Continuing international sports news with golf news, and that is golf news from the Live Golf Initiative. That's where the CEO is Greg Norman. Quite a controversial on the men's golf at the moment. It is a breakaway league, and players playing in the Live Golf Initiative not allowed to play on the PGA or the European Tour. They did, however, compete in the Masters that finished a few weeks ago. Greg Norman indicated now that he said that he's considering to create a women's league, and he said that he approached players from the US PGA, the women's PGA, the ladies PGA, and also the European Tour. The men's tour started in 2022, and that's 48 players that's been contracted, and some of the best in the world, like Cameron Smith of Australia, that's currently number 5 in the world. The first major on the women's calendar that will be played this week. It will start on Thursday and finish on Sunday. It is a Chevron Championship, and it will be played in Texas in the USA. And to conclude today's international sports news, it is more golf news. It is Tiger Woods that announced that he had ankle fusion surgery. That is big news for Tiger Woods, and that means that he might miss the PGA that's going to be played from the 18th to the 21st of May. That will be at Oak Hill in the USA. Tiger Woods battled at the Masters 2 weeks ago. He had to withdraw during the 3rd round. He had trouble with his ankle. He hurt his ankle in a motor car accident more than a year ago, but he recovered to play in the Masters. But the Masters was a difficult tournament for him. It was difficult to walk the course because of all the rain, and Augusta is also a very hilly course. So it is Tiger Woods that went in for ankle surgery, in doubt for the PGA that starts in May. That's the international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you very much for watching Africa Good Morning, not just this morning, every single weekday. And we'll be back next week from Aina Raiza Koyo and Ashwin Berry Sweraja Kanaka.